Okay, so the second part of this lesson is that we're going to start with a graph and then we're going to write an equation. So yesterday, or the last lesson we were on, we were starting with an equation and then putting it on a graph, and now we're going the reverse direction. Okay, so when you have a graph and you want to know what equation represents the graph, you generally are in a good place if you identify the slope and the y-intercept. So I've told you before, we have the formula to find our slope, and that's great, but sometimes it's just easier to count on the graph. So I'm going to take a look on this graph for 2 points. I see a point here, and the next point I see looks like it's right here, and I'm going to count. So up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4, up 5, so that's 5, and over 3. So by now you should know that our slope is 5 over 3. Okay, and the second thing we're looking for is our y-intercept. Where is our line crossing the y-axis? And that's right here, so I'm going to designate that point, 0, 3. And I'm going to use these two pieces of information to write my equation. So we know our equation in slope-intercept form should be y equals mx plus b, just like that. And m is the slope, and b is the intercept. So I'm just going to replace these in. So y equals, our slope was 5 over 3, so I'm going to put 5 over 3, and our intercept was 3. We're all done. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the steps from the top of this problem to put this equation into standard form now. So we're going to rewrite this equation. We're going to rewrite it as y equals 5/3 x plus 3. And our first step is to get rid of any denominators if we have any. So do we have a denominator? Yes, we do, 3. So we multiply both sides by 3. Make sure this is being distributed. Okay, so we end up with 3y equals 5, because the 3 cancels with this 3 down here, x plus 9, because 3 times 3 is 9. Next thing we do is we move the x term over. So this is a positive 5x, so we're going to subtract 5x from both sides. I can't really take away 5x from 3y because they are different variables, so I just write down the operation. We want to start with our 5x, so I'm going to write minus 5x. This is a positive 3y, so I put plus 3y equals 9. And of course, our last thing is that this is not a positive x, so we have to multiply by a negative 1 on both sides, or to everything, so that we can get our positive x. And this gives us 5x minus 3y equals negative 9. And so there we had an equation. Well, even more than that. We had a graph. We wrote it in slope-intercept form. And then we wrote it in standard form. So now we know how to take a graph and write two different equations that actually represent the graph.